And thanks for a good start. So my name is Joe, and with me is Nick, and we're going to introduce ourselves properly, but this is the topic we're going to be discussing today. Please, let's make it interactive. If you've got any contribution or any question, please don't be shy. Just let us know, put your hand up, draw our attention, and we'll let you do that. For our agenda, this is what we hope to talk about. We're going to explore AI because we all know AI is transforming industry. I'm sure everyone is aware by now. We don't need to sell AI anymore or try to market AI anymore. We all know the capabilities of AI. But what we're going to talk about steps that can help you. We're going to zoom into practical steps that can help us propel or get on this wave properly, okay? Steps that are going to get us profitable or change our processes, improve our products, etc., etc. Nick and I have been in this industry for a very long time. Many people think AI started today. It started years ago. And that's the industry we've been for years. And we're just going to share with you some of the practical steps or practical things that we do with our customers and where it has taken them to, and maybe it can help you as well. And maybe by the end of today, you can have a roadmap as to what AI is. We're also going to talk about AI risks. Nothing comes for free. There's risk when it comes to AI. We're going to talk about governance, ethics, and trust, and of course, give you some information on the roadmap and question and answers if we do have answers. Some of the answers are with you, actually. Okay. Before we start, I'm going to let Nick introduce himself properly, then I'll come in, introduce myself, then we get started. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Joe, and thanks to Sakai and the CZI for inviting us to speak today. It's great to be with you all, and it's my first visit to Zimbabwe, so that's fantastic as well. So my name is Nicholas Jones, and I work as a statistician and solution architect. So for, it will be 18 years, last week, 18 years I've helped organizations. We'll share some of those organizations with you on the next slides, but primarily in Europe, but also in Africa. So I've helped them through consultancy and training to harness data, to get better value from data, to make better decisions using their data. Okay, so I'll pass back over to Joe. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. Before we start, just a word of warning. I like to give people warnings before we start. At least you know what's coming. For the tech team, the warning I have is, I'm sure you can see where my mic is, okay? Nick and I are the same. When we are delivering training or some of these talks, we end up with IT taking microphones from us because we're very loud, especially when we get to bits that are of interest to us too much. We get very, very loud, and we don't want to burst anyone's eardrums today. So IT, if we get very loud, please feel free to turn it down. Even to 0, we are okay. Okay? Good. So my name is Joe, and I am a senior analytics consultant. I can't talk fully about what I do at once because my hands are in different pots, different pies. So I'm going to drip feed as we go. But just a brief introduction of myself. My role, really similar to Nick, is to equip companies or people or employees with skills that can help them understand their data, not only understand their data, but gain insights from their data. Not only that, give them practical hints that they can go onto the shop floor, make some changes, see changes, and make an impact onto their organization. We don't just talk. We've got customers that we have implemented these methods to, and we've seen them work. So that's some of the stories we'll be sharing with you today. My background is in applied mathematics, so I've got a PhD in applied maths from Coventry University. But I have worked in manufacturing in various industries. Actually, my experience started here in the UK at Old Mutual. I was part of the actuarial science long time ago, decades ago, but I chickened out from those exams, went through the mathematics route, and here I am. I work with companies from various industries: manufacturing, food industry, med device, pharmaceutical, most companies, and I've met some of my customers here as well, and it's same with Nick. I've also been involved in academia, so I am still a visiting researcher at a few universities in UK and in Europe. I'm a visiting researcher in the field of applied mathematics or complexity science or complex networks, if you want to be in particular. But I've been working as a statistician for a long time, for over 20 years now. So I'm a chartered statistician with the Royal Statistical Society. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I think I'll end here now. Otherwise, it will sound like an obituary. You know, we're running out of time. Yeah. So, and for the customers that we work with various customers, okay? I'm sure you can recognize some of these names. We've just included a few here, but some of the customers that we work with are actually here. I met one of my customers that I train on a regular basis based in Europe. But we work with Siemens. If you've got any tinned foods, baked beans, all those kind of stuff, ketchup, I've probably put my hands or my fingers are found in all those products. Or if you trace back to where it comes from, Jaguar Land Rover, Mercedes-Benz, Formula One, BT, Amazon, Facebook itself, PepsiCo, Rolls-Royce, to name just a few. Okay, good, thank you very much, and let's get started. So the question I have, or that many people have, is what actually is artificial intelligence? What is AI? And I get so many definitions. And I thought you guys, most of you probably know what AI is, but I just want us to be on the same page. Therefore, I thought it's best we define AI before we get started. Because sometimes when I hear projects where people or analysts have implemented AI, I kind of scratching my head thinking, is this actually AI? Some of it is not AI, but many analysts just call everything AI these days. But what actually is AI? It's important to note that AI is a simulation of human intelligence, okay? So AI simulates human intelligence in machines, okay? Where does this simulation happen? In machines. These are programmed to think and learn like humans, okay? So two things. We're programming them to think like us, and we're programming them to learn like humans. We give them small data, they learn from that small data. And there's a word that is very important. I didn't intend to drop it now. I said we give, okay? We give it small data, and it then thinks or learns like human. Because some of us tend to think AI starts from nothing, from scratch to create something, okay? Let's correct that, it's not true, okay? It learns from something, okay? And why do we want AI? Here are the AI tasks to solve problems. And we'll look at some of the problems that have been solved by AI. We are also going to look at some of the problems that AI hasn't been able to solve up to now, okay? Like I said, I work in many different fields, and part of what I do, I also work for some of these AI models. So I work for Outlier, okay? Some people ask me, what do you do on your spare time? On my spare time, I work with AI models. I work for Outlier on my spare time, because I haven't got much of that spare time. And what do we do there? We try to improve these AI models so that they can think and learn like humans. I'll go into it in detail as we go along. Second thing that AI is meant to do, it's meant to understand natural language. And it's also meant to recognize patterns. So these are the three main tasks for AI. What is involved in bringing or in solving these tasks? AI in solving these tasks has to use machine learning. It's a greater part of AI. It has to use neural networks. It's okay if you don't really understand what these things are. It's not important for today. AI uses natural language processing. And again, for more definitions, you can find them on this link that I have provided there. And this guy here used to have an office some time ago, long time ago, at Oxford University. And I had a chance, I used to collaborate with Oxford a long time ago, and I had a chance to sneak in his office when he was away once, just to take a picture, okay? But that was very naughty. I don't do that anymore. I'm mature now, okay? Good. We already have an answer, but here is a question for you. When do you think AI was first defined? If you can scan the QR code and answer the question on your phones, that would be great. We just have one person who's very quick and sharp who's already answered. When do you think AI was first defined? Any thoughts? $1940. Okay, that's one person. Let's see, I'll give you time. Answers are coming through. A word of warning. If you search for this question in one of the chat GPTs, maybe today you'll get a correct answer. But when I was preparing, when Nick and I were preparing these slides, chat GPT actually gave a wrong answer. And I had to correct chat GPT. And now if you check, you may get a correct answer. But it was giving a wrong answer on this one. Okay? Up to 3 days ago. Okay, good. We have 9, 10. Let's just get the numbers to double digits. Then I will stop. Okay, good. Anyways, as you keep voting, you notice most of us, about 2/3 of us, even up to 70% of us, think that it started in 1955. That's actually true. Okay, that's actually true. AI was first defined in 1955. AI gave me 1956, which is wrong. 1956 is actually the conference where this guy gave a talk. But I'll come to it in a bit. But yeah, it was defined in 1955. Thank you very much. By this guy here, John McCarthy. US scientist, he's a mathematician, became a statistical computer scientist. He did put on many hats, but he's the guy who defined artificial intelligence. Okay, so it didn't start like a few years ago, it started a long time ago. Here is a list, not conclusive, of some forms of AI since in the 1960s, okay? By the way, this is not meant to be an eye test. I can see for sure you can't see all the text on my screen. But from 1966, we have ELISA. This was created at MIT. If you know MIT, they're quite higher up in terms of technology. They created a computer, and this is the script right at the top, original script from that ELISA program. What it was meant to do, this was the first time a computer spoke to someone, to a person, okay? I'm not going to go into detail. My slides, I think CZI can share the slides afterwards so you can read through because of time. I'm not going to go into everything. But again, let's skip everything and come to 2000 or just before 2000. We had GPUs to increase the processing power. Then we have IBM Model 1. In around just after year 2000. The most other interesting one is IBM again, around 2013, where they created a model that could understand only 20,000 spoken words. Just 20,000 spoken words, 2013. We fast track to 2015. We now have Google Tensor Processing Units. things have improved a little bit. We keep scrolling all the way to 2018 where GPT started, okay? GPT with 110 million parameters, okay? Then in 2019, we had GP2 with 1.6 billion parameters. And the pace has now been going at a very, very fast pace since then. Up to now, ChatGPT-3 with 175 billion parameters. And we keep going. Lambda came into play, and then we had OpenAI coming into play, all the way to GPT-4 and LL Llama. Okay. So it didn't just start recently, it started a long time ago. Okay, good. Just a reminder of an important field within AI which is now being forgotten. Any data scientists in the room? Okay, just a few. Okay, it's a field that is currently being forgotten or being taken over by AI, but it's very important to note that data science is still part of AI, and data science comes in the middle between computer science, maths and stats, and domain knowledge. If you are to do data science properly, you have to include domain knowledge. This is an important part of data science. Data science is meaningless if it's being driven or the models are being created by someone who don't understand maths or statistics, because it's a greater part of maths and stats. Similarly, we need computer scientists to push these models through. It's very hard to find someone who's got all these three skills together to a good level. Therefore, collaboration is the key. You should have your team, if we're talking of a team, you should have these skills to a higher level if you are to deliver data science projects well. And data science is a greater part of AI, as we will see in a bit. But let me just put through a comparison of the two, not a comparison, they work together. But data science, the role sometimes includes gathering data. Nick is going to talk about this bit, gathering data, organizing data, sometimes unstructured data. And AI is currently not found in this area, okay? And we've got analysts pushing through AI models to do all these steps. Maybe that's why the models, some of the models are failing. AI is not great at this part, okay? Second part, data preparation, cleaning, processing, and labeling data. There is a framework that we are working on with some academics. So we are hoping to push a research paper or publish one soon with a framework on the first two bits. We have a framework that we call CLEAN that will be pushing out, especially for the African community, to help you guys work with AI and some of these models. We will share once it gets to maturity level. Then we get to modeling, where we apply statistics, mathematics, machine learning methods, and this is the bit where AI starts working. This fuels AI. This is where AI models can learn something about your data, or AI starts applying some of these modeling to understand your data and spit out something that can be of use to you. Next, prediction and decisions, interpreting results. AI systems now making decisions automatically, okay? But it all starts from the top. Then deployment, of course, automation. This is again an area where AI does or performs very well, okay? Any questions from anyone? Okay. Good. If it's okay, please allow me to take off my coat. I'm not intending to jump on the screen, but sometimes, you never know when we're talking of things. Good. And these are the subsets of AI. Just to mention that if you search or read some books or search online, there are 6 main subsets of AI. I'm just giving them a few here. I've got 4 here. We start at the top, artificial intelligence, and you can see the subsets inside artificial intelligence, but it's a big part of machine learning, okay? It's a big part of machine learning. Machine learning, let's relate back to that data science that I've given you. Data science, a part of maths, a part of stats, a part of computer science, a part of domain knowledge comes in the machine learning bit, okay? Then neural networks, again, where we start talking about NLP, natural language processing, okay? A part of my PhD, when I did my PhD, it involved natural language processing at the time. And after that, I also have a PhD student that I supervise who graduated last year, who was specializing on NLP. So we're still working in this field, still improving the field, but that's one field that is close to my heart. Then after that, you've got deep learning. But just to speed up from here, this is McKinsey, how they define the evolution of AI. Again, similar to the diagram we saw earlier. But this time, they're talking of AI being a greater part of machine learning again. Machine learning, well, deep learning, a greater part of machine learning, and generative AI, a subset of all these other topics, okay? We talk a lot about generative AI, and we're going to zoom into that again today, okay? Does generative AI generate new data, new text, new images? Okay, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, okay? Thank you. AI in business. So AI is actually being used in business, and we have used it to improve processes, to improve quality, and many other things. And in manufacturing, it is being used in predictive maintenance. And Nick is going to talk through or give you some of the customers that we've worked with that have done some of this work here. Quality control. In finance, for fraud detection, risk modeling, customer insights. In retail, healthcare, I actually have a very good case that I worked on quite recently, which is very close to my heart, in the healthcare, where AI is doing quite well in improving health, in agriculture, and in public sector. So these are the areas where AI is thriving or doing very well. 2025 Global CEO Outlook Report tells us AI spending is going up. So these are CEOs who've been put together and they've been asked, how much do you plan to spend on AI? And 71% of the CEOs are putting AI spending at the priority of their list. I haven't looked at your financial statements or financial reports, but a question that you should take with you, how much spending is your CEO in your organizations putting on AI? Okay, that's a question you need to take back. But Europe and other customers we are working with, 75% of CEOs are putting AI at the top of their priority, and 69% of them are putting a budget allocation of between 10 to 20% just on AI. And for your organization, how much are you putting on AI? It could be a differentiator between success and unsuccessful businesses in the not too long time to come, but 2024 KPMG produced a report, and they anticipated 20% return on investment. For the CEOs who are putting money on AI, they predicted 20% return on investment within 3 years. For those taking notes, I would say just hold on a bit, because this is old. This industry, or AI, is moving at a very fast pace. These figures were revised in 2025 because we now know what happened in 2024. And the revision, instead of 20% in 3 years, it's gone up to 67% ROI in 3 years. So this is the return ROI, which means it's worth doing. It's worth going into. 19% in 6 months to 1 year ROI. This is big. Okay? This is big. And in less than 6 months, zilch, zero, nothing. And you've got some business guys looking for return on investment on AI within 6 months. For now, the figures are telling us we haven't seen any ROI within 6 months, but we expect 20% between 6 to 1 year. Okay, good. Any questions from anyone? Good. Let's go to these projects, okay? So we talk of 6 months for 20% return. We talk of 1 to 3 years for 67% returns. Where have these returns been coming from? This is where the returns have been coming from. Quick wins and quick gains are coming from reducing costs. They are coming from improving, well, within 6 months, ROI is coming from improving productivity. So if there is anything you would want to improve with AI, is these areas here. Reducing costs, productivity, quality. This is where we are seeing a difference in AI, okay? In more than 24 months, this is a risk zone. Again, not much time to talk about it, but we can discuss during our break. Again, top uses of AI or machine learning over the past 12 months from 2025, 50% usage in AI has been in quality control. So again, when you go back and you are looking for improvements on your process using AI, you need to be thinking about quality control. This is where we are seeing most gain in AI, in quality control. Again, cybersecurity is another one which has just been pushed over the past, I would say 12 months mostly. But before 24 months, this is an area that was forgotten. It always comes as an afterthought. But of course, it did cost some of the companies a lot of money. Hence, we've started thinking about security when it comes to AI. I'll go zoom into that again a little bit later. Process optimization, 42%. And again, this is where Nick and I can help in these areas here. Quality control, process optimization, logistics. This is the area that we specialize in. This is the area we have seen improvements in companies that are using or trying to use AI. Okay, good. Not all AI projects have been successful. There have been some failures. And the number of failed projects in AI is alarming. If I can tell you the number of apps that have been created just this October, we've only gone just over 1 week in October, but the number of AI apps that have just been created just in this 1 week is alarming. And the number of failed AI projects, I was talking to Nick when we were preparing these slides, and he gave me advice. He says, please don't talk about the percentage of failed AI products. Because if I am to tell you the number, you'll probably think, what's the point? But there is one thing in common when it comes to that big number, okay? There are very good big numbers when it comes to successful AI projects, but there is one thing in common for failed AI projects. One of them, top priority, is learning. There is a big learning gap. The first challenge is that many organizations are just jumping into AI because it's a buzzword. Okay? Good. They're just jumping into AI without a clear strategy. Do you have a strategy, an AI strategy as a company? And what is in that strategy? Something we will touch on again before we finish for our talk. You need to understand broader business objectives and match them to AI or what you want to do with AI. Without that, unfortunately, you won't go very far. So there's a learning gap in terms of those using AI. There is also a learning gap when it comes to the AI models, okay? There is a big, massive AI gap when it comes to learning models. Let me see. Sometimes when you're trying to show something, it doesn't really go to plan. But I'll be brave. Let me just show you something. I promised I'll be sharing with you some of the work that I do. Okay? I told you about this company. Of course, I didn't want to put it as part of my slides because I'm limited in terms of what I can talk about. But what I'm allowed to tell you is that here at Outlier, we are working to improve AI models. And look at the purple dots in here. This is how much investment has been put into it. 50 countries are involved in bridging the gap in terms of the learning gap in AI. So part of what I do is to improve AI models on a mathematical side. So I look at how AI answers mathematical questions or formulates mathematical problems or answer them, and I try to provide an answer so that when you go to AI, you've got a mathematical question or problem, AI can solve the problem for you. But look at where the contributors are coming from. Look at Africa. Just a few from South Africa and a few at the top. Look at the middle. No contribution from the middle. Okay? No contribution from the middle. Look at the other side of the world. No contribution. What does this mean? It means when it comes to contextualizing the information you get on AI, it's missing your bit, your African bit. It's missing that other bit or these other parts of the world. Of course, there's something in there because I am from here, but I'm in the UK. And some of it is universal anyway, but we miss some context. And it's also the same when it comes to your company data. You're trying to solve a company problem using AI, which has no knowledge, no clue about your process, and you're expecting a good answer. No chance. That information is not there. It's missing. Do you get it? It's not there. You're looking for something that doesn't exist as yet. So this is what we're trying to do to bridge the gap or the learning gap in AI. However, there's still a long way to go. Okay, still a long way to go. Good. Worked well so far, didn't backfire. Let's come back to my slides. Okay, good. So that's the learning. Second is overhype. Overhype is causing us to put unrealistic expectations on AI projects. What we are hoping to get returns within 6 months, or the returns that we're defining within 12 months are not realistic. And this is another common theme we have seen in AI projects that are failing. Again, shadow AI. What is shadow AI? Because AI has become a buzzword, it's being spoken about everywhere. Everyone now knows about AI, okay? I will be visiting my mother-in-law soon. She is 85, and even she knows about AI, but she was more worried when she saw me. She said, Joe, I heard you're in this field of AI, and I heard AI is taken over. Are you okay? So everyone now knows about AI. But the problem is, there is no strategy on AI as an organization, which is now forcing, or which was forcing individuals to take it upon themselves, which is very good because it shows enthusiasm. But now it's a little bit better. These individuals are grouped or organized in departments. You now find a department manager taking it up upon themselves to formulate an AI strategy. And what happens, different departments are doing their own thing. And the danger in that is an oversight on security, and oversight on governance and compliance risks. Okay? And we don't realize there are costs related to this. I will show you the costs later on bridging some of these risks. They go up to millions, hundreds of millions, if you miss any of these things here. Okay? And there are a few who have been fined so far. Okay? Good. Lastly, lack of data strategy. I should mention that AI depends heavily on the quality of your data and accessibility. Without a strong foundation in AI, a clear governance, standardized way of doing things as a company, no, without secure pipelines, even the best AI, the best machine learning models fail. With the best mathematician or statistician on board or data scientist, those AI projects will fail without a clear data strategy. And the question I have for you is, do you know your company's data strategy? And if you do, what is it? Does it include all the aspects that should be considered when it comes to a data strategy? I think I'll leave you here and I give you over to Nick. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Joe. So I'm going to continue with this theme of data strategy and expand a little bit on what a good data strategy might look like and some of the things that we should be considering. So as Joe has mentioned, artificial intelligence is not intelligence. It has no inherent knowledge or ability to help you. It is entirely dependent on the data that we are feeding in, the context that we can provide to these AI models. So if I put garbage or rubbish into an AI model, I'm going to get garbage out of my AI model. If I put incomplete or missing or biased data into my AI model, I'm going to get bad outcomes from my AI model. I can get hallucinations from my AI model, right? Which is where we get an answer that seems very plausible. It looks like a good answer, but it's complete rubbish. So for AI to deliver real value to an organization, we need to feed the AI with data that is holistic, accurate, and reliable. For AI to deliver real value to an organization, we need to consider our data capture. I need to collect the right data. I need to feed my model with the context that enables it to give me the best value, to make the best decisions. I need to consider validating that data. You know, poor quality data can be more harmful than it is useful. So we need to think about data validation, data quality. And I need to look at centralizing and preparing my data, at bringing different data sources from across an organization together, unifying data in terms of formats, enriching my data, and putting that data into a position where we're able to extract the most value possible. And underpinning this is that all of these activities should be objective driven. They should always be focused on the business problems that we are trying to solve. Okay, so let's take a slightly closer look at a few of these points. Let's look in a little bit more detail at data validation. So if we're looking at data validation, data quality as part of our data strategy, as I mentioned, we need to be capturing the right data, but if this data quality is poor, then it can be more harmful than it is useful, right? If the data quality is poor, if the data is not representing the processes that it is supposed to measure, then it can give us false confidence. It can lead us towards making bad decisions instead of good decisions. But we have studies, there are types of analysis that we can perform to validate whether our data is accurate and reliable. And if our data, if our measuring systems are not good, then these studies can help us to identify where we should focus our improvements to get good data. So these types of study are things that Joe and myself spend a lot of time with customers, helping customers to perform studies like measurement system analysis and gauge R&R. Okay. So an example of a poor measuring system, I don't know if anybody has seen the Netflix documentary about Theranos. So these were a medical device company. So I miss Netflix, so I have an eight-month-old baby, so I don't have time for Netflix anymore. So I have time for Netflix, but I normally end up sleeping through my favorite programs. But Theranos were a medical device company out of the US, and they were threatening to really revolutionize medical diagnostics. So the idea is they had a portable diagnostic system where you can put just a few drops of your blood and it would check for hundreds of different types of symptoms and illnesses. So this is something that would be far surpassing the current way of doing things. So they were growing really, really fast, valued at billions and billions of dollars. But the problem with Theranos is the device, the diagnostic kit, was essentially a measuring system. And Theranos did not validate their measuring system. They never achieved accuracy and consistency with the diagnostic results. So the consequence of this is that they were giving bad results. They were misdiagnosing people with illnesses that they did not have. Or they were telling people that did have illnesses that they were fine, that there was no problem there. So eventually the FDA were catching on to the compliance issues and the quality issues with Theranos. And ultimately, Theranos the company was folded. Key leadership positions are currently being prosecuted and are most likely going to end up spending a significant amount of time in prison. Okay, so bad measuring systems leads to bad decisions, and particularly in a medical device scenario, we can end up damaging patient health. Okay, so the lessons here is that data is only as trustworthy as the system that is producing it. And that validating data is not something that is optional, it's something that is essential as part of our data strategy. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the validation of our data, but what about centralization of data? What about the preparation of our data so that we can unlock its maximum potential? So let me talk about at a high level, let's talk about a case study that Joe and myself have worked on with a customer from the UK. So this customer were capturing data from a variety of different locations. So this was a manufacturing customer. So they were capturing data on pieces of paper. They were measuring and then writing them down on pieces of paper. They were capturing data using gauges, calipers, and things like that. They were capturing data with CMMs and vision systems, and they had data coming from other places as well. But the problem for this customer is they weren't able to bring this data together. They weren't able to create that holistic view of what their processes were looking like. Right? The pieces of paper, they were just filed away in a cabinet, never to be seen again. Maybe unless we have an audit or something like that. The gauge data was not being recorded at all. The CMM data was available on a USB stick, but it was never routinely and consistently collected. So they were not able to centralize and bring this data together. Their data was siloed and fragmented across the business. So then when we want to start preparing this data and gaining value from this data, we are limited. Well, already we have one hand tied behind our back. Right, so the process for this customer is they would collect the data that was available to them. They would collect and they would use Microsoft Excel as a way of combining and preparing this data. And then they would move this data into an analytical software so they can start to perform their analytics. But this whole process was very manual. This was a person or a small team of people's job. So they would have to go through this process And it's fine for them to do that, but then if they're doing that week after week after week, it's grinding these people down. We are wasting skilled labor with tasks that are very laborious and are relatively easy to automate. But even more importantly is the time that this is taking to gain visibility of our process performance. It's taking a week to collect and to analyze this data, and we're only getting a partial view of what is happening. So in that 1 week, we have a big opportunity where we could be performing badly, where we could be creating scrap parts and damaging customer relations and so on and so forth. So after we implemented our digitalization projects, the landscape looked different. Okay, so we have the same data sources. We are capturing data in the same way, but now we are able to centralize this data. Okay, so the pieces of paper, well, that becomes an iPad, so we can type those measurements straight into a database. We are integrating with things like the gauges and the CMMs, so that as data is being generated on a day-to-day basis, this is automatically flowing into a data warehouse, that we are creating a single source of truth. And from here, we can then start to apply rules to automatically prepare this data. So we now have a situation where there is no human interaction necessary. We have a pipeline that is automated, where data is prepared and enriched. And so rather than it taking 1 week, in seconds, we are able to produce dashboards to gain immediate visibility on the KPIs that matter and that can lead us towards success. It means that as soon as we are picking up on negative trends, we can issue alerts. I can send an email or a text message to the person that needs to make an intervention or to investigate some problem. And it means that we can provide our analytical team or our data scientists or our AI model with all of the data that it needs for root cause analysis. So when things do go wrong, when our KPIs are trending in the wrong direction, we have a body of data that we can use to unlock the reason that this is happening and to help us to correct this problem and to bring these KPIs back where they belong. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about our data strategy. But once we have a data strategy in place, then we need a digitalization strategy, a digitalization and AI strategy. So let's talk a little bit about this. So digitalization and AI is a journey. This is my main message for today, and this is mine and Joe's main message for today. So this is something that we need to take slowly. We need to start at the bottom and to build solid foundations and to go upwards from there. A way that I like to think about the utility of digitalization and AI is in terms of detect, correct, and prevent. So to give us the ability to monitor the KPIs that matter in real time, and to detect when those KPIs are changing in a negative way. And then to provide ourselves with robust toolkits to help to investigate the reason that those problems are occurring, to understand the root causes and what we need to do to correct those problems. And then what we can implement as a means of preventing those problems from hurting us again. What we can do to learn from the past and to be preventative in stopping these problems. We don't want to hurt ourselves in the same way twice. Okay. So we can describe the different types of advanced analytic using a maturity curve like this. Okay, so on the x-axis, I have the complexity that is involved in these analytics. And on the y-axis, I have the potential value that these analytics can deliver to my organization. And of course, complexity, a more complex analytic is not guaranteeing that it's going to deliver more value. This always needs to be objective driven. This always needs to be driven and focused on the problem that we are trying to solve. Okay. But if we're starting at the bottom here, we have operational visibility. So the idea is that I have analytics that can help me to describe what is happening to me at the moment. What do my processes look like at the moment? So I can use these types of analytics to say, well, you know, the call center performance last week was looking like this, or the quality of my processes are looking like that, or the level of scrap in my factory is at this level. I can use it to describe what my processes look like at the moment. But if we travel up the maturity curve, then we have operational insights. So here, we're not only able to describe what is happening, but we can start to answer why that is happening. We can apply diagnostic analytics. So I can say not only, you know, why is the scrap rate, no, what is the scrap rate of my factory last week, but I can then say, well, why is it like that? Is it because of the raw materials that we're using? Is it because of a bias in our operators or a problem with our equipment? So we can start to understand and to perform root cause analyses. The third step on my maturity curve is predictive analytics. So now we can start to look towards the future. I can start to make predictions or forecasts of what tomorrow looks like. You know, if we were to do X, Y, and Z, then next week my processes will look like this. Or next month, this is what my KPIs might look like. So we can start to anticipate the future. We can start to be preventative and to anticipate and reduce risk. Above the predictive analytics, so I'm not tall enough to point to it anymore, but we have prescriptive analytics. And this is then adding a layer of intelligence. So we are able to make predictions of what the future looks like, but I can then prescribe actions to make that future better. So if I'm predicting that next week my scrap rates will be very, very high, I'm not only able to do that, but I can then say, but if I do this, this, and this, I can improve that picture. I can make the future look better for me in my organization. Okay. And finally, at the top there, we have self-optimizing. So here we have a system that can automatically predict what the future looks like, define the action that will optimize that future, that will make that future look better, and then apply that action automatically. We have closed-loop systems that can find a problem, understand what is needed to fix that problem, and then implement that fix without there necessarily being any human interaction. Okay. Do you have any questions or comments so far? So let's spend some time just going through each stage of this maturity curve just in a little bit more detail. Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. My name is Stephen Ngui. I wanted to find out from you, you spoke about almost more than 50%, 42%, if I'm not mistaken, of AI being used in predictive maintenance. I wanted to find out now, for example, some of our industries have got old machines. There are a few machines that have got logical controllers, which obviously may be in sync with the, synchronized with AI. What about those machines that are sort of antiquated, let me use that word? How do you then get a synchronization or interface with AI for predictive maintenance to be effective?
Yes, so your question is about the older devices. So the prerequisite for utilizing AI within a predictive maintenance situation is that we can apply our data strategy to that device. So we need to have a device, however old, we need to have a device that is capturing the data that we need to provide that AI with the context that is required. So it might be that that device is still producing that data, that is still measuring the data that is important. It might be that we need to integrate new sensors to help to collect that data. But as long as we can provide the AI with the right data and of the right quality, then we have an opportunity to implement predictive analytics or preventative analytics. And I will highlight a simple case study that Joe and I have worked on that is looking at preventative maintenance. Okay, thank you for your question. Okay, so before we continue, we have another question for you. So most of the customers that I'm working with are, in terms of their maturity, they're kind of down here somewhere. You know, in Europe, we do not have many customers that are operating consistently above the level of operational insights. So my question to the room is, where does your organization sit in terms of its analytical maturity? Of course, no organization is simply within one of these places. There's always a mix. There is always differences between teams and departments. But if you think of your baseline capability, where would you sit on the maturity curve? So going into this question, I was very confident that operational visibility would be the winner, because this is what I see reflected with the interactions that I'm having with my customers. Yeah, and 25% operational insights. So we can then start to peel the onion. We can start to go down a layer and to understand what are the mechanisms that are driving the behavior of my processes. So we'll just give this a few more seconds. Okay, so we have someone who's routinely applying predictive analytics as part of their organization, so that's really great to hear. Is that person brave enough to put up their hands? Okay, we'll track you down later. We'll track you down later, okay. Okay, but you do not need to be a statistician. You do not need to harness an AI system to see that the winner here, if I can call it that, is operational visibility, that most organizations, not just in Zimbabwe, but globally, are able to provide operational visibility, but cannot necessarily go much deeper than that. Okay, thank you. So it may be that most organizations are still at the beginning of the maturity curve, but the benefits are there. So this is a journey. We have to start at the bottom and to build strong foundations and to grow from there. So it is a journey, and there is complexity, but the benefits are there. The return is there to be grabbed. So this slide shows the results of a McKinsey Lighthouse analysis. They looked at different manufacturing organizations that have end-to-end digitalization and the improvements in key manufacturing KPIs that were defined. So we're seeing big benefits in all of these different KPIs. We're seeing big improvements in all of these KPIs, but particularly in things like productivity, operating cost reduction, lead time reduction, and in speed to market reduction. So there are big benefits, but we need to do things in the right way. We need to follow a digitalization and AI roadmap. Okay. We will share these slides with you after the presentation. Okay, so let's just take some time to go through the different levels of this maturity curve, just in a little bit more detail, hopefully just to bring these to life for you a little bit. So the first stage on that maturity curve was the operational visibility. Okay, so we can't manage what we can't see. We need to turn on the lights and be able to understand how our processes are performing, what the KPIs that we need for success, what these KPIs are looking like. So to use operational visibility, it helps us to make data-based decisions, to make decisions based on objective truths rather than based on intuition or an assumption. Operational visibility can move us towards that single source of truth, helping to break down the silos that I was talking about earlier and to talk the same language across an organization, to have people making decisions using the same information. And operational visibility can help us to build that strong foundation that then is allowing us to move along that maturity curve and ultimately to deploy advanced AI models. Okay. One of the challenges with operational visibility, which we touched on earlier, is where is the data? I might need to go to my ERP system to get some of the data that is important. Some of the data is in a database. Other bits of data are scattered around my networks in Excel files or on pieces of paper. So one of the biggest challenges of operational visibility is being able to accumulate all of the data that I need to produce that visibility, to track the KPIs that we need. And not only to do this, but to do this in a timely manner. Operational visibility has less value if my visibility is 1 week out of date. You know, I'm making decisions that are 1 week out of date. Great, okay. So another example of a customer that Joe and I have worked with in terms of operational visibility. Well, this was, again, it's a manufacturing customer, but they had big challenges. So they had challenges acquiring the data from these different places. They had challenges bringing this data together and preparing the data. And then they would move this data into an analytical tool to produce their analysis. Then they would make a report in PowerPoint or Words and email that report to the stakeholders that needed to see this information. And then they would have to chase those stakeholders up. You know, have you opened the email yet? Have you seen the attachments? You know? So by the time that we have notified, but by the time we have detected a problem, already days or even weeks had gone by. So for this manufacturer, it means that there was a huge opportunity to be producing defective parts, to be producing scrap parts and losing revenue, or passing on defective items to the customer and damaging their reputation. So this was the challenge that the customer had with attaining operational visibility. So in solving this, we were able to automate that workflow, to automate that data strategy. So by integration, we can automatically collect and prepare the data from those key data sources, to automate the analytics and the report creation. So for this company, instead of it taking weeks or days or weeks to gain operational visibility, they had operational visibility within seconds, almost in real time. So this means when a problem was detected, they had the opportunity to make an intervention, to be proactive in addressing this problem before it was hurting them. Okay. So Deloitte are saying that 70% of manufacturers with real-time operational visibility saw uptime improvements of 15 to 20% within 1 year. And the World Economic Forum were saying that visibility-driven digitalization can cut lead time by up to 50% and energy usage by 25%. So this is real. This is not something that we're making up for you. So let's talk about that second stage on the maturity curve. So operational insights. So we not only have visibility of what is happening, but why it is happening. We can diagnose the reasons that our processes are behaving in a certain way. Yeah, so with operational insights, we're able to gain that deeper understanding. We can turn data into learning. So this enables targeted improvements where we're able to make investments where it's going to make the best return for the organization. This helps us to shorten response times to quality or performance issues. It helps justify capital investments. I want to make my investment where it will yield the best return on investments. I want to spend my money in a sensible way. And it helps with that cultural shift from firefighting to proactivity. Yeah, I don't want to spend my time containing problems that have already hurt me. I want to spend my time preventing those problems from ever happening in the first place. And this is one of the steps that we need to get there. So for operational insights, some of the challenges are, again, the challenges are around the data. So we need high quality data, we need holistic data, and we need data that is available in real time or in close to real time. We need the people, so we need skilled people who are trained in understanding and interpreting these types of analytics. We need cross-functional collaboration, domain knowledge from across the problem. And we need the right toolkits. Okay, so basic tools can solve many problems. Visualizations, brainstorms, Ishikawa, things like this can solve many business problems. But sometimes we need more advanced tools. We need things like hypothesis tests, predictive models, and AI to solve these problems. Okay. So again, in terms of social proofs here, we've heard from Unilever. So Unilever were able to understand the causes of yield loss and achieved a 15% reduction in manufacturing waste. GE Aviation, through diagnostic analytics, were able to reduce test failures by 25%. And a McKinsey study showed that through diagnostic analytics within continuous improvements, we were able to achieve 30 to 50% faster problem-solving resolution. Okay. So let's talk about that third stage on the maturity curve. Let's talk about predictive analytics. So this is where we're now relying a little bit more on AI. This is where we're using machine learning and things like this to help us to understand what the future looks like, to help us to predict and to anticipate risks and to forecast and so on and so forth. So for predictive analytics, we're moving from hindsight to foresight. It can help us to reduce unplanned downtime to save costs. It can help to improve reliability and customer trusts, to build resilience against external shocks. And for predictive analytics, we're very reliant on good quality data pipelines, on having the data available to feed our machine learning models. Yeah, so for predictive analytics, we need to integrate machine learning models into our operations. We need data-based decision-making culture, people who are not just reporting on our predictions, but people that are acting on our predictions, yeah, that are using this information. And we need feedback loops. Yeah, we need to join together domain expertise and data scientists so that we can iteratively improve the quality of these models and the value that they're able to deliver to our organization. Okay. So for predictive analytics, we're seeing Rolls-Royce were able to reduce unscheduled downtime by 30%. They saved $250,000 per year per aircraft. So that's a lot of money. GM were able to reduce unplanned downtime by 20% using predictive maintenance. And Deloitte have shown that predictive maintenance, or predictive analytics, sorry, can give a 10x return on investments and reduce maintenance costs by up to 30%. So this is something that is working. To give you an example of a case study that Joe and I have worked on in this area, we were dealing with a manufacturer, again, who was having problems with productivity. So this company, because of bottlenecks in their process, they were losing thousands of dollars in revenue. They were missing deliveries and damaging their customer relations. And they were, generally, this was a really big problem for them. McKinsey have shown that unplanned downtime for an automotive tier 1 supplier, which is what this customer was, can cost $50,000 per minute of stoppage. So you can see that this was a really serious problem. So to solve this problem, we used a process simulation, We were able to model the way that material was flowing through their production processes. And using this model, we could identify the problem. So the problem was it was a CNC machine that had a poor reliability. It kept breaking down. We had to call the maintenance engineers. They would have to diagnose the problem and fix it. And this was causing a lot of problems for them. So how could we address this problem? Well, with predictive analytics. Okay, so we were able to build a predictive model that was using data generated by that CNC machine to understand the interactions between those data points and to predict the risk of failure from this, for this CNC machine. How likely, based on the current data points, based on the current variables, how likely is it that this machine will fail within a 2-hour window, for example? And using this, well, this is what the process looked like, just very briefly. So we used historical data to train our model, to build the intelligence into our machine learning model. And we sent that model into the cloud, into a server. So then as my CNC machine is operating, as I'm producing and measuring parts, that data is being automatically sent into the cloud, into the model that we have created. And that model can use that data to understand how much risk is there that this machine will fail. And we can then use that information to give the maintenance team or the operators that visual feedback, to give them a traffic light system. So if the traffic light is green, then we're saying that the model is predicting a low chance of failure. You can just relax and carry on as normal. If the traffic light is amber, then we're saying, well, there is some risk of failure. Maybe you should perform some additional checks. And if that traffic light is red, then we're saying, red alerts. This thing is going to blow up. It's not going to blow up, but this thing has a high chance of failure. So you should call the maintenance team now. You should take a look at this thing now before it breaks down. Okay, so this is an example of predictive maintenance and how we can use machine learning to help us to call the maintenance team before it is too late. So the fourth stage of our maturity curve was to do with prescriptive analytics. Not just predicting a problem, but prescribing action to avoid that problem or to optimize your outcomes. So with prescriptive analytics, we can move from decision supports to decision recommendation. We can add that layer of intelligence. We can increase profitability by optimizing quality, cost, and time, all of the key outcomes that you desire. We can optimize these things simultaneously, not looking at them in isolation. We're able this type of analytic, as I've shown you, can demonstrate measurable return on investments. And some of the key considerations are integrated decision support systems. So a way of joining the AI with our ERP and helping to create that interface between the AI and the human. We need to think about cross-functional optimization. I can put a lot of effort and time and resources into an AI model that can help me to increase the quality of my processes. But I can't do this at at any expense. I still have to be pragmatic and to think about the cost and the time that is involved. So we need to balance, various factors together. We need to think about the governance layer. So this is something that Joe will talk about in a little bit. But we have sometimes here a black box. So we need to think about governance, trust, ethics, and all of these things can start to have an impact. And we then also have enablers. So this is things like, obviously, our data strategy, data infrastructure, management trust in the outputs, and things like that. Joe will expand on some of these topics. So for prescriptive analytics, BMW have a lighthouse factory in Germany that was able to cut cycle time and reduce waste through prescriptive analytics. Procter & Gamble used an integrated prescriptive model within their supply chain to save $1 billion annually. And Continental, in collaboration with IBM, were able to use decision optimization to improve throughput by 10%. So again, this is something that is real. Many people are not there, but it's something that is real. To give you an example of prescriptive analytics, so this is not now a real example, but this is an expansion of what I talked about previously. Okay, so I talked previously about this predictive maintenance problem where we were trying to give a traffic light system to help us to understand the risk of failure and to call the maintenance team before it was too late. Well, this is an example of what the data looked like to build that predictive model. Okay, so I have things here, like I have information from the CNC machine. What is the temperature? What is the power consumption? The torque? How much vibration is there in this CNC machine? And I can use this data to understand the risk of failure. But what if we were to collect some extra data? Yeah, what if, rather than just modeling whether the machine is failing or not, what if we start to think about the way that it is failing, the failure mode? So not is it failing or not, but is it failing because of a vibration problem or a heat dissipation problem? Is it something to do with power or oscillation? So we can start then by collecting this extra context, this extra information, we can start moving towards a prescriptive model. And not only asking if this machine will fail, but why or how this machine will fail. So we can start moving towards this type of prescriptive model, but only if the data is supporting this, only if we have the right data and we can provide our model with the correct context. Okay. I mentioned a few slides ago the Procter & Gamble. So they had a digital twin-based control tower. So they were using data from production and logistics and demands and simulating millions and millions of different scenarios in order to recommend the optimal manufacturing and shipping plans. So this was the customer that is saving over $1 billion annually. They improved their service level and they reduced their finished goods inventory. So digital twins, this is something that is obviously closely related to AI. This is something that Joe and I are very interested in, where we're able to create a digital environment, a digital replica of a system, and we can connect this system to our business data. So we have live data flowing into this simulation. This is something that is really powerful in terms of prescriptive analytics. Okay. So the final stage on our maturity curve was self-optimizing systems. So this is moving us towards the intelligent factory. This is moving us to a situation where we can not remove the human, but where we have an automated ability to find a problem and correct that problem without needing that human input. Okay. So it can deliver agility, consistency, scalability. It can help to reduce the dependency on skilled resources. And it can move us towards that lights out manufacturing, yeah, where things are able to mostly operate autonomously. So, you know, the idea being that we have sensors collecting the data we need that flows into analytics that can understand the relationships and the behavior of our processes, and that those analytics can then make automatic adjustments to optimize the situation. So self-optimizing systems, they're giving continuous feedback loops, as I've mentioned, continuous feedback between the sensors, the models, and the control systems. We talked about digital twins that can simulate and learn from our operations in real time. Continuous learning algorithms. You know, even the best predictive model, even the best machine learning model in the world will not stay good over time. You know, things change, and we need our models to keep pace. We need models that are continuously learning and refining themselves. And again, governance, so things like operating within safe limits, traceability, explainability. These are some concepts that Joe will talk about in just a few minutes' time. But considering these things, we can have a good outcome. You know, resilient, low waste, self-correcting operations. So just a very basic example of a self-optimizing system. So I've gone back to my CNC machine. So we can monitor the outputs of my CNC machine. I can look at the properties of the automotive wheels that these CNC machines are working on. And we can monitor this and we can say, well, if the process is stable, then that's great. We can just carry on. But if we're monitoring and we start to detect a problem, if we start to detect that one of these key parameters is losing its control, that we're producing defective parts, that we're burning money, then we have a situation where we can then automatically make adjustments to the processing parameters, where I can send feedback to that CNC machine. I can alter a feed rate or a spindle speed or change the tooling path. So we can apply this correction automatically to bring ourselves back into control, to correct that problem automatically. Okay. So before I hand back over to Joe, I just have a few more slides. So Schneider Electric, they have a lighthouse plant, I think in Germany. So they have a fully autonomous quality control system. And this reduced scrap by 25%, increased throughput by 15%. The World Economic Forum have shown that self-optimizing systems can deliver return on investments within 2 to 3 years. This aligns with what Joe was talking about a little bit earlier this morning. And Siemens Electric, so they have, again, a lighthouse factory that's operating a digital twin-based closed-loop control system. So really fancy system, and every workstation is feeding real-time data into this simulation, and it's able then to predict process drifts and to automatically adjust parameters to mitigate that. So these guys have got almost a 100% first pass quality. They almost never produce a defect, and they've been able to improve productivity by 140% without increasing their floor space. Okay. So just before I pass it back over to Joe, in summary, we're looking for high quality data. We're looking to break down those silos and to provide holistic context to our AI systems. We're looking to invest not just in platforms, but we're looking to invest in people and processes. Tools alone will never deliver the value that you need. And we're looking to move away from being reactive. We don't want to spend our time firefighting problems that have already hurt us. We want to spend our time anticipating and preventing those problems from happening in the first place. And this is how this is the kind of thing we can do as we're moving along that maturity curve. Okay. So start where you are, use what you have, and connect what you know. We're not looking to start right at the top with some all-encompassing system that can solve all of our problems in one go. Start small. Start with one data pipeline, one predictive model, one connected process. Get that working and then scale from there. Start small and scale. That's the message. So thank you very much. I'm going to pass it back over to Joe.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. That's great. So we've gone through a journey, even in this presentation. Started slow. We fired you up a little bit. I'm just going to pour water on you a little bit, okay? By talking about some of the issues that we don't really want to concentrate on. Let me bring back the slide that I finished on, looking at the causes of AI failed projects and the common themes around those failed projects. I'm not going to talk through everything here again because we've seen it, I've spoken about it, but let me just zoom into AI and some of the real statistics about AI projects that is out there. There is so much data to do with AI online. Sometimes I wake up in the morning. I'm an early riser, by the way. Every day, doesn't matter where I am in the world, of which I travel, or this maybe past 3 months, Nick and I have been traveling almost every week up until now. Like, we're not coming from home. We're actually coming from 2 weeks tour of Europe. We're not coming from home. So sometimes when I get home, or I wake up at 4 actually every day. So when I wake up at 4, I check what's around or what's going on in the field of AI or something. And sometimes I look through it and I end up with a headache within 10 minutes because I'm overwhelmed with amount of information out there. And the bad thing is most of it is just, I don't want to use the word, but it's just rubbish, some of it, okay? I'm afraid. Some of it is. So some of these things or some of this information, it's becoming hard to separate good from bad, okay? And I'm just going to talk through some of the flaws in AI. We've just been made to believe that AI is the savior, okay? It can do everything, can do anything. Let me highlight a report that came out this day last week, just 7 days ago. I can give you a link, or the link is in the slides. I've added into the notes, so you can go and check this report. And the report is actually supported by Microsoft, by OpenAI, all these models that are big out there, by Meta, that you use, they support this report. And part of this report, what I like, has some of the information from the work that I do, that I explained earlier in trying to improve these AI models. So there are risks when it comes to AI, okay? I'm sure you knew. But let's look at the statistics. AI systems, did you know that so far, we tend to think they solve 100% of coding problems. It's not true. 2023, they could only solve 4.4% of coding models, okay? And part of what I should be doing, which is not what I'm doing regularly because of my schedule, I'm too busy, is sometimes, as part of the work, you can ask a question, say to AI model, okay? And you probably get a wrong answer. Say a mathematical problem, you get a wrong answer. Feedback goes through, it's a probabilistic model, so we know the probability of you getting that answer, or the probability of the confidence we have in that answer. Some of those questions end up in my inbox or with me. I look at them, and we maybe provide an answer, or maybe look for an answer or research. Then I pass it on to someone higher than me who does the same. And it has been realized that actually 4.4% of the coding problems were only solved. The rest of them were hallucinations or wrong or no answer. This was 2023. Fast track to 2024, the figure jumped up. So things are improving. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all bad. So now 71.7% of coding can be solved in AI. This is 2024. And we are working so hard to improve these things. Very soon, 2025, this number is probably gone up. So I'm suspecting maybe in the next 2 years or so, we'll get into the 90%. But just to let all the coders know, there's still wrong coding you can get from AI. It can still go bad. It's a risk. Be careful. Humanities last exam. Anyone know about this project? Humanities last exam? Again, it's another project I'm involved in. We're just trying to make AI models behave or think like humans, okay? By getting, for example, research papers. You get a research paper. You ask questions based on the research paper, but the model is blind to those papers. And you're trying to see if the model can get an answer from the paper that I've read so that it's behaving like me, but blindly without that paper. And we're trying to improve these models. The highest score we got from these models, 8.8%. So if you knew AI can now think like human, only 8.8%. If you're worried about your job, of course it depends with what you do, but currently 8.8% can only be solved like a human. So you're safe, depending on what you're doing, of course. Complex mathematics, very low. It can only solve 2% of complex mathematics. Just 2%. And you look at AI, you ask anyone in the streets, they'll tell you, oh, it solves everything. 2%, it's not even in the double digits. And what I'm talking to you about is a report that came out of last week, Artificial Intelligence Index Report 2025, came out last week, Tuesday. I've got a link in my slides so you can take a look at it. Big code bench AI systems achieve 35.5% success rate, well below the human standard of 97%. So we're still doing better than AI models in some areas, okay? I hope I'm not scaring you away from AI. I still use AI, okay? But as Nick mentioned, you need the right pieces of a puzzle in the right order. We've had companies save billions or make millions or thousands or whatever using these AI models if you do it properly. Good. Just looking at time. There are other challenges. Complex reasoning still remains a problem in AI. Remember the two tasks, or what AI is, it needs to mimic a human in terms of thinking and all sorts. So complex reasoning still a problem. And you've got another buzzword, AI agents. Anyone implementing them or hoping to? Okay. Big statistic on AI agents. For now, if you give these agents a task to solve within a short, if you give it a short budget, okay? If you give that agent a short budget. By a budget, I'm talking of lots of parameters, but one of the main ones is time. If you give it, say, 16 hours to solve a problem, it seems to surpass humans for now, okay? However, if you give it 32 hours, which is some of you guys, or not maybe you, but some of the people have seen what they do. They give an agent access to everything, to do everything for them. Research, or not research, but descriptive statistics, what's happening has told us that after 32 hours, it needs help. It doesn't know what to do. It starts hallucinating, starts giving you wrong information. When you wake up, your bank account is wiped. It has bought every little thing it thinks you need. Be very careful. So far, at 32 hours, humans are two-thirds more in performance compared to AI. Okay? So you got to be careful. Last AI index highlighted lack of standardization and benchmarks and all these things. But I haven't got time to dig deep into everything. I'm just highlighting things that you can go and look for yourself, go and become knowledgeable in for yourself. But they are standards starting to come up, okay? They are standards starting to come up. EU is bringing up standards, again, to do with responsible AI. You've got the helm coming in for safety and the air coming in for safety. And I'll give you a few frameworks that they have given us, okay? So to work safely with AI, the first thing, or to avoid the pitfalls that I've been talking to you about, one thing you need to do, Nick mentioned this, you need to have a clear definition of what case we are working on. What's your objective? But in most cases, we've had situations where from the top we are told, guys, we need to use AI. Then you install AI, you buy AI, you subscribe to AI, you've got it, then what next? You are with AI, so what do we do with it? You know, it should be the other way around. What business problems do we have? What are we prioritizing? And what tools do we need? Should AI be part of it? Yes, maybe you're right at the bottom of that maturity cave. Start from there. Don't just start by creating just a chart from data that is not good. Okay? Good. Again, as part of that, don't just use the accuracy of these models. Go beyond how accurate these models are. Within your company, set up a department that can use this type of frameworks. And that governance department should be looking at, for example, how fair is this AI model that we have created? Because if it's not fair, EU regulations will come after you. And there are cost implications involved in this, and I'll show some of the costs in a bit. A good example where the unfairness or unbiased opinion has been found was in recruitment. Because it's easy to plug in AI when it comes to looking at CVs and picking the right candidate. But sometimes picking the right candidate may not have been done fairly by an AI model. It may have overlooked some of the legal issues or HR issues that those people in those kind of fields look at when someone real look at a CV. We haven't finished putting everything into AI yet. So hold on. You can use it, but check. Is it fair? Is it robust? How much is it hallucinating? How much new stuff is it bringing in? So you need someone to be looking at this and quantifying that. Compare models. Don't just use one model and there you go. There are methods where you can have a question and you can have 3 models to give you answers. You can actually tell a model, just give me 3 of your best ones and include your worst decision as well in there. It will do it for you. Don't just go for the first answer that it spits at you. And you need to keep going, keep asking it. Sometimes it gives you a wrong answer. If you're persistent, it will then give you the correct answer. So don't just use one model. Analyze failure modes, such as bias. How much bias is in this model? How much hallucinations is happening, etc., etc. You may not have the skills to do that. That's where many other people who are skilled in that, including Nick and I, can help you if you're not sure of these things. If these are buzzwords, it's not the end of the world. Don't sit in a corner and cry. Come and look for help. We can help. Okay, good. Number 5 in this framework is reporting and governing. You need to publish in Okay, and you need to monitor to have a way of capturing this data, saving this data so that you can monitor on a regular basis. Again, I spoke about EU regulations, and look at the fines on the right. It's not small money. You had Nick talking about that lady. The company was worth billions, but she's going through the courts at the moment. She may end up being locked up, but the company was fined. Look at this, prohibited AI practices. That is social scoring. Let's talk of those CVs. They are part of this, okay? Predicting without safeguards or guardrails, it can cost you 35 million or 7% of your global turnover. Okay, that is global turnover. You're working for Unilever here in Zim. What you do may affect Unilever globally, 7% globally. Okay? Again, I've got a link in the slides that leads you to where this information is coming from. Okay? Breach in high-risk AI obligations, human oversight, data quality, Nick was talking about. It can cost you 15 million or 3% of global annual turnover. In other words, most of these breaches can actually shut down the whole company, like the company we just saw. These are not small money. It's not small. It's not change. This is not change. Small to medium enterprises, They do understand that some small companies cannot afford these millions, but you'll be charged up to 50% of your turnover. Not profit, but turnover. So be very careful. Guiding principles. Again, this was my quick way of capturing like a 15-page document. So the US Marines have an AI strategy, and we can learn from them. Their AI strategy is a 15-page document, but I've just summarized it in one page here. If you are to implement AI, think about your AI mission. What are your company goals? Match your company objectives to what you can do with AI. Don't start from AI, then move the other way around. What are you trying to solve? Reduce costs, improve productivity, improve quality. Start from there. Goal. Collect and prioritize the use case. You start from small steps. AI competent workforce, that's their second goal as part of their roadmap. They want to upskill their staff on AI data-driven decisions, methods, and all sorts. And this is a greater part of what we do, Nick and I. Rolls-Royce engineers, we have sessions with them sessions with them every month, okay? And one of those sessions will probably be in transit somewhere, whilst I'm in transit somewhere. But I have regular sessions with their engineers. That is engineers who work on the submarines, who work on the aircraft engines, who work on various other important projects, okay? So training is a greater part of it. Partnerships and collaborations. You cannot do it alone. Seek help, okay? Even us, we don't do it alone. We work in collaboration with L4. It's a logo we should have included here. L4 is a collaboration of 4 universities, and we are part of that research team. We work to provide projects for PhD students, provide advice to PhD students. Some of my students are actually here in the UK, MSU, I think, yeah. So work collaboratively with those that are well networked and gain from their experience, from their exposure. Number 4, AI deployment at scale. This, even though it's from the US Marines, I disagree, okay? Slightly. Because you don't start by scaling up. These guys have enough resources. They can do it, but we can't. Start small, as Nick said, from a pilot. Solve one specific problem. What is your pain point? One process, work through it as a pilot, learn from its successes, and implement somewhere else. Then number 4, AI governance. Establish governance internally. Establish a team internally. If you don't have it, from my point, that's your take-home message. Go and establish this governance team and look at some of these things that we're talking to you about. Before I go into my last slide, which is this one, or before I give to Nick, let me just share with you another framework. Hopefully I still have it here. Another framework that we are working on, due to be published soon. Okay. This AI framework, okay, we'll be publishing it soon. It simplifies these AI risks and governance by looking at blind spots. So you can have like a quadrant, like 4 quadrant or 5. On a project, list your blind spots. Unseen risks, biases in the data, models, whatever. I've defined them there. Look at your hotspots. Look at your cold spots. Look at your choke points, bottlenecks, constraints. Look at your bright spots, or learn from your bright spots. And I also give some information on how to use this framework, okay? And there's obviously a disclaimer. What you see at the bottom here, these are established frameworks that are currently there, these top 5 here. Please read through them. Big, massive documents. I've just tried to simplify it here just to give you practical things that you can do to save yourselves from penalties or etc. Okay? Good. Lastly, before I hand over to Nick, this is our simplified version of the roadmap. So the last few slides that I've shared with you, it could actually be a day's workshop just looking at governance, ethics, and all these things. But I've just shortened it in small slides, and I don't want you guys to fall asleep with all the information we've got. But step number 1, identify high impact cases, ensure data readiness, as Nick was mentioning, data quality, start small pilots, and then build capability from there. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll pass over to Nick to finish the last slide in 2 minutes, then we are.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Okay, well, we're almost at our first coffee break, so I won't take too long. But just by ways of summarizing the key takeaways for Joe and for myself from our presentation to you today, is first of all to resist the urge to jump straight to the top, to jump straight to complex AI systems that will solve all of your problems and make your life amazing, because this is not realistic and these projects are likely to fail. So instead, focus on getting those solid foundations in place. Focus on the beginning of that maturity curve and then build and evolve over time. Okay, so focus on things like getting the right data, high quality data, investing in people and processes, and then moving along that curve. So start small, get it right, and then scale. That's our message to you today, but it would be great to hear from you. What is your biggest challenge in making process improvements? Where are the challenges from the people in the room? Please give us your feedback, and then we can take a coffee break. Okay, so we're getting some data coming across here then. So collecting and cleaning data, data acquisition and data preparation. We're seeing 17% are struggling most with the analyzing of results, implementing and validating changes. That skills gap is always difficult to overcome. Okay, so I think there's no surprises here. But my final message is, if you are struggling with your data pipelines, your data strategy, Joe and myself, this is what we do. We can help with this type of problem. If you're struggling with skills gaps, Joe and I, we have training courses. We are able to deliver upskilling and enablements. So if you have challenges in these areas, please feel free to speak to Joe and myself today. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and go and enjoy a coffee. Okay.
MC, thanks guys for an insightful presentation. I've got a question on.
Sorry, one other rule. When you ask a question, you stand and you tell us where you're from, and you introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and Google, you speak with your chests. Speak with your chests. Speak with the room. Well, I'm not saying go like go and do this. I'm just saying
Okay.
speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentations. My name is Henry Nemaire from Tanganda Tea Company in Zimbabwe. So my question is, we have an integrated power generation system, and our system generates data in terms of how much power comes from solar system, from generators, and also from ZESA. And that system then eventually manually we then calculate the cost of power per kilowatt. That this system can be brought in now to assist us be able then to manage that system in order to reduce the cost of power because as you go along, cost goes up because there's no ZESA. When I say ZESA, I mean our utility in Zimbabwe. Like it's like ESCOM in South Africa and so forth. So there are various inputs that cause the cost of power to go up or down. So just some guideline as to how AI can be applied in that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for your question and your kind feedback. So I think this is definitely a problem that AI can help with. I probably would start with predictive analytics, machine learning models that can start to define that relationship between these different sources of power generation and then the power usage or the cost that this is having. So we can start to understand the relationships that are driving things. And from this model, we can then look at optimizations. Can I be smart? You know, where is a lot of my energy going? Can I do things at different times of day? Can I restructure processes or things like this as a way of starting to optimize power usage? So I certainly would start with predictive analytics and machine learning, assuming, of course, that we have the right data in place. I don't know if you have anything to add, Joe?
Yeah, that's perfect, Nick. Not much to add, but what I would say is we currently have part of our team working on that in the EU. I don't know if you know of National Grid in the UK. Yeah, we have. That's actually the ZESA of UK, and we have someone working on this similar kind of work area. Sure, please do get in touch. Thank you. Good. Sure.
I've got another question. Sure. So I won't introduce myself this time. But productivity is a big issue in industry in Zimbabwe, and I'm sure globally. And we do have data coming out from our operations in terms of productivity, daily productivity, but it's all electronically input for wages. But I'm wondering whether we can then channel that same data to calculate productivity and do analytics and then be able to do prescriptive analytics and so forth going forward, and also sometimes be able to discipline some people for lack of productivity and so forth. So,
you mean reward people who have a high productivity?
Reward
That's what you meant to say.
And discipline. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I was struggling to breathe as you were talking because this problem is something that I wanted to address or will address at some point. But I've seen a very common behavior, especially in I can't say I've spoken to everyone in Zimbabwe, I'll be lying. But to a few people that I've spoken to, I've seen a common behavior in what they call data. They call transactional data with customers. That's what they call data. That's what they track. That's the vast amount of data you have. That is useful to track sales and marketing. And it's actually in the KPMG report of 2025 and the Deloitte's report from 2024, they mention that most AI is being channeled towards sales and marketing. But that's not where most of the benefits are coming from. The numbers I've been talking to you about, Nick has been talking to you about, has mostly been to do with quality and productivity. And that comes from production data. That comes from process data. Of course, we could add or couple this transactional data, add it to the real data we want to look at, which is production and process data. That's what we should be collecting, and that's where the value comes from. So I think we need to add a layer to that data and start collecting process data, real process data, and start collecting data that gives us value. Okay.
So something in your toolkit, once you have that data in place and you have that body of evidence that you can work with. We talked earlier about process simulations and digital twins. So these are digital representations that are thinking about your processes, they're measuring productivity and efficiency, but they're also thinking about the people and the human resources. So these kinds of systems can be very useful for the type of use case that you're talking about. Okay, thank you for your question.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. My question also is on electricity. Oh, sorry. My name is Victoria Jakazi from the Water Company.
Hello.
Right. My question is also on electricity. We currently don't have enough electricity to go around, hence we experience power cuts. Now I'm concerned about the integrity of the system with power on and off. What should we do? Or can we say we are not ready for AI, or what is the solution on that one? Then also, secondly, we are saying we need to invest in people to do the centralized data capturing. So confirm we must employ people of also higher integrity to be in a place where they capture the data so that we remove the silos that we have been working with. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I'll start with the power cuts because Nick is not used to that. No, he's used to electricity every time. So in terms of power cuts, I had a conversation earlier with someone mentioning exactly the same or almost the same. So what I would say is, in that case, then you are limited in terms of the time at which data refresh, okay? That will be your only limitation, refreshing data. So what I would say is, I'm sure by now you guys know a good pattern in terms of when that electricity comes up. If you don't, then you are in a less good situation. But if you know a pattern, you could work hand in hand with that pattern in terms of refreshing that data. And it doesn't stop anything else. The only limitation you have, you don't always need data refreshed every minute or every 15 minutes. Because the problem is, if you do that, the system is going to expect some data coming through in 15 minutes. But the systems are off, there's no data coming, you're going to generate errors in your model. So to avoid that, maybe you need data once a day. You could even set up your systems to refresh as and when that system is up, but a regular time interval when collecting data is required for the robustness of the system. So that you will need to work out. But yeah, we'll need to look at some other conditions to see the best way. But that's all I would say for now. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, there is a limitation, of course, but you don't need to refresh every 15 minutes or 15 seconds. Maybe once a week. We do have customers in Europe that do that as well. Nick, anything to add?
No, so, relating to your second question, I'm not sure I fully understood you, but let me talk at you and then we'll see if I answered it correctly. We'll see if I answered it correctly or not. So yes, of course you need to invest in people as part of your data strategy. So if we're thinking about data capture, then these generally do not need to be very highly skilled people. So we are putting things in place at the point that we are collecting data. So I'm thinking here less about the transactional data, but about process data. So we're giving people a form next to their station where they can type some numbers in, or we're integrating with a measuring system so that we can grab that data. So for data capture, we do not need to invest heavily in skilled labor. But as you suggested with your question, when we are looking then at centralizing, preparing, enriching, transforming data, then this is a more complex operation. So this is something where we need skilled labor. We're looking at data engineers and data scientists. But once we've established these pipelines and once we've put processes in place to automate these types of steps, then it's then more just a governance and a maintenance problem. So we don't need a lot of people, but we need skilled people who are able to maintain and to enrich these pipelines over time. So I hope that I answered your question, but please tell me if I did not. Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm Daniel from Solution Center. I head up the networking department. My question is sort of a follow-on from, I guess, from what you were saying. With the infrastructure and underlying infrastructure and collecting of data, what would you say the importance of a solid network is to connect and transport that data to where it needs to go? Is that something that's critical, or like you mentioned, can you sort of do it in an almost siloed approach where you can collect that data, store it for a while, and then take it to where it needs to be to go, for example, to be processed? What would you say the importance of the underlying network is?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on the business problem and the use case that we're looking to solve. You know, if this is something where I really need to keep my finger on the pulse, where I need to be able to detect and to react very quickly, then that network and that infrastructure becomes very, very important. If this is more something, if this is like a monthly reporting type scenario, then maybe then it's less important, and we can more manually bring this siloed data together at the time that we need it, that we need to make these decisions. So I think it depends a lot on the use case, but generally for the types of things that I was talking about today, I think it is quite important to have that infrastructure and that network to bring these fragmented pieces of data into a holistic center. I don't know if you have anything, Joe?
Yeah, just to add to that as well, when we are moving to real-time statistical process control, then those systems are very, very useful. Because as a company, you need to think, if things are down, how long does it take before it starts hurting us? Or if we find a defect now, a good example is when I used to work in the motor industry. I used to work for Jaguar Land Rover. I was in their quality department once. And what we used to do is every hour, we used to take, you know, the car, we called it body and white, we call it body and white. They weld all the pieces to make a car. So we used to take a few pieces at random, then we go and break the weld to see, and we use vision systems to see the quality of the weld. But if we see a defect, what you need to think of is, by the time I run to the line or to the robot to say, hold on a minute, the weld is not good, this car is going to be scrapped, how many cars have gone out of the production line? If it's 10 cars, then you've lost money. You've lost profit for a month or whatever. So that's what you need to think about. That refresher, that gives you enough time to react before it starts hitting you. If that's the case, then you need these solar systems in place at the right time to make sure we intervene as soon as or just before we start losing money. Okay? So yeah, that's a brilliant point. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sekai from CZI. Yeah, you can laugh because my name is Laugh anyway. So, so my question is a policy one. So what I've seen is that with these transitions, one is the climate transition, digital and AI, we seem to have slower adoption at enterprise level and maybe quick adoption at policy level. So we make commitments at policy level, and then we begin to be led by regulations more than by the business use case for that transition. So what we found is right now, if you look at sustainability and ESG, we are tracking the regulations and we are tracking the standards. We have already seen that the government has come up with data protection regulations and data protection officers. Yet we are still trailing in terms of our own data strategies and digital strategies at enterprise level. So this is a concerning gap for us as business, because at that point, our ability to lead policy becomes limited. So when you talk about private sector-led policy or private sector-led economic development, if we adopt earlier, then we are able to lead policy because we are leading from the experience that we are actually seeing in our companies and in our corporations. Currently, the government has come up with an AI strategy. I thank God that it is a strategy and not a policy. But the opportunity is for us now to begin to actually work on what would be instructive to policy, because obviously a policy will come and obviously regulations will follow. So how do we proactively, as private sector, begin to put together something that can direct policy or that can inform how policy should evolve as we adopt and as we adapt and as we implement in our various companies? That is what is really key for us as CZI, because we stand at the intersection of business and policy. So hence our interest to get this conversation going. And of course, I hope that we may be able to reach out to you to also assist us with some of that. Thank you.
Okay, good. That's a great question. And I should say, as private sector, I hope I won't get into trouble with this, but do not wait for the government to put things in place for you. As the private sector, you need to be proactive, okay? And I was at a conference most recently, beginning of September. I was giving a talk at the Royal Statistical Society, but I also had the opportunity to sit down and learn. And this is what I learned at the Royal Statistical Society in the UK. They have put together, as statisticians, as mathematicians, as engineers, they've taken people from the industry, private sector, and together they have created the Royal Statistical Society AI Task Force. No government involved, and this task force is looking at fair AI, is looking at governance, is looking at all these other things. And because they were proactive, together they were first to go to government. Government didn't approach them. They went to the government, and tell you what, government is then caught unaware. And what do? They listen. But if it starts from the other end, then you are in trouble, because you have to listen to what they say. You are now arguing against them, okay? So what I would say in Zimbabwe especially, it's really good that CZI has something like this as part of their agenda. It's something that I really, really want. I'm sure us all can thank them for setting something like this. And together, yeah, sure. Sure. So I think together amongst us, we could, or you could, form these forums together on governance, set up a task force on your own as private sector. Work collaboratively. It might be too difficult to work. Someone from the food industry has different interests from someone in cosmetics, etc., etc. Maybe you can do it at industry level, okay? For food manufacturers, gather together. What is AI? What are we doing? What do we need to see in terms of regulation before it's in place? That's all I would say. Be proactive. I don't know, Nick?
No, I thought that was a great answer, Joe. Yeah. I think things have changed so quickly, and everybody is playing catch up, and there are these voids, these holes, and I think, as you're saying, it's an opportunity to influence and to have an impact where in other areas you would not have that opportunity.
Yeah, correct. And I would say if there's anyone from Zimstat here, it's also a great opportunity for you. These are some of the areas that you should be working on, okay? But you find it's not only here in Zim, it's very common in some countries. You find departments like Zimstat, the equivalence of that in the UK is Office of National Statistics. Instead of just gathering descriptive data, just at the operational level, influence. So these are some of the things they should be doing. And in the UK, the Royal Statistical Society is actually pushing this agenda. So do it here, Zimstat.
Hi, so my name is Jimmy Silos from Crystal Candy. I'm just going to go to practical and commercial considerations. So help us understand if we invite you to our plants, for example, and we say, okay, this is the plant, these are the most important machinery, this is the data we have. Help us understand from a practical perspective what a project looks like, and also to the extent you can give us an indication of what sort of the cost range might be.
I think our approach would be to look at the low-hanging fruits. You know, there's a million different places where AI and digitalization can have an impact, but let's look at the quick wins. Let's look at the opportunities to make an impact immediately or quickly. So that pilot selection is very important, and then it's about discovery. So understanding the landscape, the constraints we have to work with, the limitations in terms of data pipelines and infrastructure. Benchmarking, so understand, you know, what is the current performance level, what KPIs are we really looking to impact as part of this, because everything's focused around the business problem that we're trying to solve, right? And then we move into that more, that kind of design phase, you know, building that solution, matching it against your requirements, implementation, you know, so it's very standard kind of process improvement type roadmap that we would typically follow. I'm shying a little bit. I'm shying away from the more commercial question there a little bit. I don't know how we might tackle that, Joe.
Yeah, but before I go into the commercials, again, something that we do quite often in some of these projects is to help, because you understand your process better than we do. So work with those with process knowledge, domain knowledge, to explain their business or industrial problem. And what we do is to translate that industrial problem into a statistical language. And we help you do that. Once we translate it into statistical language, then we can advise the statistical tools that you need to solve that problem. It's not all about the big things, about machine learning and all sorts. Sometimes you need to start from the bottom, depending on the questions you want to answer. So we zoom into that. We advise on the statistical methods that are best for the problems you're looking at. Then we go further to analyzing that data, equipping you with the analytics skills that you need to analyze the data. Then most importantly, translate that into context. You now have statistical knowledge or information, translate it back to context. What does it mean in terms of temperature? How much temperature do I need? Which range do I need to operate in for viscosity, for example, or for the sweetness to be maintained in this range, for example? So we then look at that. Then we look at interpreting it in context, then automation, if automation is needed. So that's the process. In terms of commercial, it's hard standing at the front to say it's this much, because the work itself may be this little. So we may have overcharged, or the work itself may be over big. So it's good for that discovery call to take place, for us to come in and see how is your landscape, what is the benchmark, where do you want to get to, what phases do we need to go through. But a phased approach is best. Start small, start with a pilot, build it up until we get to the top.
Yeah. So before we would talk commercials, first we would want to qualify. You know, is this something? I know Joe is amazing, but we can't solve every problem. You know, we're not pretending that we can solve any problem ever. You know, so is it something that we can really help with? Yep. Discovery, to really understand that landscape and to understand what's required. You know, what does that statement of work look like? And then we would be in a position to talk those commercials. But thank you for your question.
Thank you. Still have a question at the back. Please, you guys have to tell us if it's time up. Otherwise, we can be here.
Okay, thank you. My name is Cornelius from CZI. I just want, I think my mind will be very simple for you. We always find ourselves with data, especially from our surveys as CZI. And probably the question is, what sort of tool can you recommend that we use, probably, so that at least we migrate a little bit from Excel-based graphics and designs? This one, I think, is simple for you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so there's, you're right, you know, you can do pretty much anything in Excel, but how much time do you have to invest in programming these equations and these techniques, and is it really worth the effort when you can buy tools that out of the box are giving you analytics that can speed up your decision making? Survey analysis, multivariate techniques that can help you to understand survey results and to take insights from them. So there's a variety of tools that Joe and I work with regularly. We both are affiliated somewhat with the Minitab statistical software. So this is a very common tool that is used for process improvement and root cause analysis. There's also NIME that I know that we like a lot. So there's a lot of tools. There's also coding applications, things like Python and R that can be suitable in certain situations and are open source. So there's a wide range of tools that are available there, and some of them may be more or less appropriate given the situation. Got to,
All right, thank you. My name is Rose Shumba, coming from Old Mutual. So in your presentation, you spoke about data strategy. You also spoke about digital transformation in AI strategy as well. I wanted to find out, can these two run in parallel? Or if we have to get the data strategy right so that our data is in good shape, at what point do we say we are ready to now start driving digital transformation in AI strategies? The second one is on the last level of maturity of self-optimizing. Is it the same as agentic AI, or it's different, that level? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'll answer the first one first. I would say a data strategy is more important. We saw from the statistics from KPMG that most AI projects fail because there is no data strategy. You just want to apply AI on top of data that is not there, or on top of data that is simply not correct or not validated, etc. So the first phase before you do anything, I would say, is data strategy. Of course, you can do it in parallel, but what I would advise, in my opinion, some people don't like me for this, but I don't like boiling the ocean, okay? Little steps, start small, make sure the base is good, give it a tick, then move to the next level. Of course, we all want to get to self-optimization, but what I would say, as long as you're doing something along that spectrum, you're doing well. What is not good is to do nothing, because AI is moving and moving fast. But if you're doing something, you're working on data strategy, you're making sure your data, good quality, is accurate and precise, you're doing very, very well on that spectrum. Give it a tick, move to the next layer as such, okay? So that's what I would say. Line the ducks properly, okay? Nothing stops you from doing it in parallel, but that would be my advice. The second question on agentic AI, it's kind of the same. And my advice to you, which some of the guys that I work with would say, is with some of the information we've collected here, okay, from the surveys, if anyone asks you or talk about agentic AI, this is what you have to do. Okay? That's all you need to do for now. Because before we get there, there is a lot that needs to happen underneath. Like I said, survey or information statistics we have from the from just last week is that agentic AIs at the moment, they just surpass humans if they are given a budget of just 16 hours. But if you give agentic AI 32 hours, humans surpass them massively. They fail. And agentic AI is not going to tell you, I have failed. It will keep giving. You tell agentic AI, or what you can do with agentic AI on a personal level, for example. I've done this myself. You give it access to your inbox and everything else, and you can tell it, AI, next week I need to be in Netherlands for a talk between this time and this time. And I also need to be in Frankfurt before I travel back to the UK. And I need to be home for 2 p.m. because I've got a meeting at 4 p.m. That's it, job done. It looks through your information, who you are, what I do, and it will book me a flight. It will book the best seat because it knows I like a window aisle from the information. It will book the favorite day that I like to travel. It will get me there. And it will book my favorite hotel if it's available. If it's not, it books my second available. It will book for restaurant meals. I haven't asked it to do anything. It has my credit card details. And it will book all the flights back to the UK. But you give it 16 hours, or you think how much computational time does it need to do that? If it surpasses that window, like I said, I may wake up with a bank account wiped, and I may wake up with a trip to Zimbabwe, to South Africa, all over the world in 2 weeks. So you've got to be careful about self-optimization and agentic AIs. They are not there yet, okay? It's just a concept. Some are using it, but limitedly, okay? Good. I hope I answered your question. Okay, good.
Hello, I'm Christine from Trade Kings. To just add to that, my question is that given that some of these AI models require large amounts of infrastructure, like energy, is it necessary to utilize AI in our businesses for, I can say, smaller tasks, considering the cost and the power source for us in Zimbabwe? Most of us use backup power. Is it advisable to use that backup power for AI systems that a human can do, is relatively doing enough currently? Or would rather maybe just try to improve the processes that we have and only focus on quite like maybe the processes that really do require the AI? For example, some are using agents to communicate with their customers. Is it really necessary considering the amount of resources that is needed for the AI?
Absolutely. I would say if you can, AI is making a big difference. We saw the benefits out there. So if you can't, with the current energy situations you are in, utilize solar power, for example, as others mentioned. But if you are constrained by budget, there is something that you can do. It's not always expensive. It just depends on who is helping you with the AI, whether you are using or plugging into third parties that are quite big. Of course, if you ask Anthropic or OpenAI or Google to implement a project for you, they will not say no, but they're going to charge you loads of money, okay? You probably need to sell a kidney for them to come and implement AI. But you just need to think of, do you really need to go to that level? Do you need that very big models to solve the problem I have? In some cases, you just need to work with a small model, okay? Do you need a model? Because what is important, as we saw, is context in AI, not the generalized AI. If you go to ChatGPT and you tell it, I'm struggling with the quality of my product, can you help me improve it? It will give you general knowledge. But if you add context, then it starts talking to you in terms of your process parameters, in terms of your constraints and all these other things. And sometimes you don't need the knowledge that knows who is the current US president. You just need a model that was updated, say 2020, for example, you know. So you can utilize third parties to help you where you don't need to invest a lot in the infrastructure. That can save you money. Or you can do it internally, you know, do it customized AI in-house, which is also doable, something that we can also help with. If you just want your cheap, customized AI that doesn't need a big model that understands everything in the world, you know, you can still. And there are companies in Zim that are actually using AI. So it's very possible, who are constrained to the same conditions you are in terms of energy. We will hear about that this afternoon, some use cases where they are using AI. That may actually help if you ask them, how are they doing it in the current climate? Because we know there are some using it. Thank you.
And just to add, I would encourage you to focus on the individual problem that you're trying to solve. For the problem I'm trying to solve and with the constraints around energy or finances that I have to work within, what is the right tool to help me to solve this problem? And maybe it is AI, maybe it's not, maybe it's something else, but focus on the problem, not the technology.
Yeah. Good. And that is very important because most start from the technology. Then what can we do with it?
Okay. Thanks, Joe and Nick. My name is Stephen Ngwe. I introduced myself earlier on. I've noted that your exposure or most of your work, AI work, is in the UK and Europe. I'll ask you the question that I want to ask you and give a practical example of what happens. I think you're aware that as a country at some point we were subjected to sanctions and we're not able to buy equipment from Europe and the UK. We're not able to buy equipment. Let me, hello? 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 You can hear me? Okay, thanks.
We can hear you, yeah.
So, right. So I remember I worked for one of the big organizations. I'll not mention the name for private purposes, and we bought equipment from it. And that equipment, it was a lot of electronics involved in it. And we had engineers that came from Italy to come and install the machinery and commission that machinery. Unfortunately, we could not run that machine because it was more advanced. Then if you look at then what happened is we're now buying machines from China, where my question now will come to you, where the Chinese, from our experience, is that they're not willing to share knowledge. They'll give you a machine. That machine has PLCs. It has got a programmable language in it. It has got software that is in there that you cannot decode unless if you get in touch with them. And they are more willing to work remotely to try and solve the problem. If they can't work remotely, they will tell you that we need to be on site to work on that machine. Now, to AI now, it becomes very difficult now to have the system AI enabled in such a situation where they're not willing to give that information. What would be your advice in such scenarios? Thank you.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, so there is, I know, I think you'd probably expand on this, Joe, but there are AI systems that are open source, where you do have visibility, where the hood of the car is open and you have, it's not necessarily a black box. So I probably would lean potentially in some situations towards AI systems that are open source and driven through things like Python as a way of approaching this and circumventing some of these issues that you're talking about. Joe?
Yeah, and again, there are other tools that are that require no coding, that are used even in Europe, that are open source, that do not require all these other things you're talking about. And we can upskill as well in these tools. These are tools that I've used myself in manufacturing. For example, whilst I was at Tata Steel a few years ago, we used some of these tools. Open source, quite good. They look at your full stack from engineering data, putting data together from various sources, to analysis, to visualizations, to APIs, to dashboards. All that information we can upskill and help in those. The other thing I will talk about in terms of, well, I'll probably lose track in terms of the questions you asked. But what was the second question, sorry?
The second question was looking at the Chinese machinery that
Okay. Good. I remember now. Okay, good. So without picking on a certain country or a certain type of people, I would say part of my experience is I've had that experience where you work with a company, and this is quite, it's not new in the UK, especially in the medical field when it comes to systems. You want to get systems that are cheaper, that are easy to implement. You do get them for sure, but the problem is they don't give you the documentation. When it breaks down, you need to call them. You've got no option. And they need to come and fix it. We've had this before. But all I would say is maybe try and avoid black boxes, if you can, where you don't know what's inside a tool. And it's part of AI governance, ethics, and all these things. Avoid using tools that are just a black box without explainability. Even with machine learning and predictive analytics, there is a big talk now about explainability. What's inside that black box? That may help you. Ask for documentation. That may help you. Ask again these questions. Now you have got insight. Ask them if this happens, or what are the risks in this software? What are the blind spots? What are the hot spots? What are the bright spots? All those are the things I mentioned before. List them down with the vendor, and then try to mitigate and make a decision whether you want them or not. But avoid black boxes. Work with people who can train you. Part of what Nick and I does, actually, when we deliver training, we avoid to make it a black box. We give you the material, okay? We give you the material, you are with it, you can distribute, do whatever you like. Hopefully you won't distribute. And again, when we come on site to train, not only do we train you with our data, perfect data, part of that training includes a workshop where we can actually use your data, think on the ball with your data, implementing all the theories that we have gone through, so that we don't leave you with just a tool, we leave you with something practical that you can put into practice straight away. And that's important, something to check with your vendors. You're teaching us all these things, but can we give you your data, our data, in front of us? Can you do these things with our data? And that's something we do. We do like such challenges with data. Okay? I hope it answers your question, but maybe partly. Okay, good.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Kudam Rombedzi. I'm with CIMAS, and I'll just make my intentions very clear from the onset. I just want to drag you guys to speak a bit more about AI use in healthcare settings, and just to focus a bit on healthcare. Why? Because in yesterday's sessions, I think when we're looking at what are the future things that might be that might be challenges for organizations, especially when it comes to sustainability, healthcare is a big issue. And when you look at this African setup, we are now looking at non-communicable diseases, chronic illnesses are on the increase, and they are more than the other more communicable diseases that we had back in the day, like HIV. Our existential threat right now that's threatening businesses, when you look at the employee of the future, is health. And when you look at the challenge of healthcare now, it's usually behavioral. Physical activity, nutrition, those challenges, those are the things that are causing our illnesses. So just to pick your minds on your global exploits, what have you seen in terms of interesting, promising interventions in the area of healthcare, especially where AI is concerned? We've seen use of wearables, tracking people's behavior. We see in the US now they're saying you can have these Ozempic pills at retail, and they are estimating that it's going to reduce mortality by a crazy figure for the US. And those things are not as applicable for our settings. So just to pick your minds on the use of AI in healthcare, especially on the preventive side, and some promising interventions that you've seen along the way. Thanks.
Joe mentioned this morning that he had a very interesting use case that he'd worked on in medical device field. I won't be able to tell his story as well as you, Joe, so if you wouldn't mind elaborating on, so was it EEG technology?
Yeah. Good. Anyone knows what an EEG test is? Yeah, some are nodding their heads. I cannot, oh good. Do you know how to pronounce the full word? Electroencephalopathy, something like that. It's a big word, right? I cannot pronounce it. It has, I think, 13 different letters. It's made out of 25 letters altogether. I cannot pronounce medical terms. But this thing is very useful when it comes to tracking electrical activity, well, like whatever it is in the brain, okay? They use it quite a lot in acute emergency. If you've had a brain injury, an accident or whatever, they want to see if there are any epileptic seizures happening inside your brain that cannot be seen by a naked eye. And this is really important because if those seizures are happening, intervention needs to happen in maybe up 15 minutes time to intervene. More than that, we start getting or seeing issues in terms of organ damage, or even in some cases it can be like very, very bad. So, but this EEG, as we know it in hospital, it needs a qualified technician to use. And these qualified technicians are rarely found, okay? Or when it's an emergency, they are rarely there. So, and this thing needs that specialist. It takes up to 60 minutes to set up. And because they need to measure your head, your circumference, and all these things, they need to put a gel in and all this. 60 minutes, by that time, it's game over. So another device was created, a rapid EEG, that can be used or set up within 6 minutes. Very useful. And it can be used while someone is being transported to hospital. But here was the problem. It required 100% inspection because the defect rate was too much. And clinicians didn't have confidence in using this EEG. So it was costing the good what do we call the person who invents things? That name, okay? It was costing them the money, okay? It was a good invention, but not making them money. So with the use of these tools, with the use of AI, especially with this one, the good thing is we're talking of AI, but we started all the way from the bottom, Nick, didn't we? We started with the measurement system analysis, with MSA, the quality of the data, the beeps, the quality of the data coming through. And that's where the problem was. That's where the problem was. And this was a consulting project with us. And problem was sorted. And that device, instead of having that full cap, you can now have this device which can be used in set up in 6 minutes, and it gives you faster results. It doesn't give you a full picture. It just gives you an idea of what's happening. And if there is any epileptic seizures, it can pick it up at some level, acceptable level of accuracy. And they are now out of this 100% inspection. They are now back to sample inspection. So this is one good example in the health field where this is working. But however, we had to go take them down from AI back to operational level. And MSA is the one that solved the problem. Okay, good. And there are various other examples. Nick has some as well. But maybe because of time, we'll end here. Okay, good.
Just thinking, what about our book?
Oh, yeah. Feedback, just one. Okay, I think just one more. It's past. We should have finished. Nick has a present to give you. Okay. We've already given one away, so one left.
Oh. Yeah, so this is a very popular book within the continuous improvement community. So it's by Quentin Brook, and it's Lean Six Sigma and Minitab. It's a very practical, well-organized guide to data analytics, going through certainly the first few stages of that maturity curve that we defined earlier on. So it's a great thing to have on your desk and to be a bit of a paper-based coach when you're looking at data analytics. So we gave one away already, but we have one more. So how should we do this, Joe? Does anybody have a piece of feedback that they like to provide, and we can give the book to whoever's brave enough to give that feedback?
Well, I think you've already given it away.
That was very sneaky.
I think we've done that bit already. All right, so we're going to give away this book. Sika, you wanted to say something? Yes? No?
Receive the book.
You want to receive the book? Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to just say that we keep unveiling what we are trying to do over the past few days, if you may, and I wanted to highlight, I think you know traditionally at CZI, we do have what we call standing committees. And we have a standing committee on industrial policy, on macroeconomics, on international and regional trade. While all these are important, they are not everyday material for businesses. But the issues that we are beginning to bring to the fore are our everyday issues, as it were. And we are hoping that we can build communities of practice around these areas, and we can continue to convene in smaller meetings and continue to discuss, to share, and to build collaborative platforms where collaboration is important within subsectors or at certain product level companies or any other groupings that may be feasible for us. And in that regard, I think on sustainability, we do have an initiative where we are going to start to produce what we have called BES, Business, Environment, and Society. And it's a compendium of business investment, impact, and initiatives in ESG, sustainability, and SDGs. And the first publication is going to be this side of the year, which is really going to be a snapshot. And then we will go on to do more detailed and more detailed publications annually. It will help us to take stock of what business is doing in these areas. And there's a card at the door. If you would like your company to participate and to be featured in this compendium, you can sign up at the registration desk. We are also enlisting NGOs who can be implementation partners for your ESG initiatives, because you may not be able to implement some of the initiatives on your own in the field, and you're looking for a partner. And we will build a directory for companies to be able to do that. We will implement a sustainability incubation program, which is a professional incubation and enterprise incubation, starting next year with a Swedish partner. So you will walk through the journey of actually implementing and embedding sustainability in your business strategy and business model beyond just reporting. Again, you can sign up your interest at the reception. And if you would like to be part of the AI for business community at CZI, please again do sign up at the reception. I believe that these are areas that we will continue to unpack and to learn together and to collaborate and co-invest so that we also reduce the barriers to adoption that we may face. I am also reminded by what Memory shared here yesterday when he spoke about the transition of our job titles, our functions in our companies. I've really particularly been interested in the IT role in many companies. If you look at our IT personnel in the early 90s, for some of us, they used to come and help us with the floppy disks. Those were days of MS-DOS and whatever else. And I'm sure the needs have transitioned and changed and evolved over time. And we are beginning now, I remembered when Potras was saying they needed data protection officers. Every company must have a data protection officer. How many of us transitioned their IT personnel to become that? Was it taken over by your IT personnel? In some cases, it was regulatory personnel. In some cases, it was HR. In some cases, it was whatever it was. But again, I think it's an area that we need to reflect as our IT-based needs at companies are evolving and changing over time. Where are these competencies supposed to be located? And are they going to be located in specific specialist roles, or are they going to be broad-based across our organizations? I just thought I could raise that particular one. Why? Because there was an uproar from industry that now we need to recruit a data protection officer to fulfill this role that is now a regulatory requirement. But did we really need to recruit? I'm sure most of us actually didn't go to recruit. Back to you, Maimba, with your book.
Thank you very much. So yes, they do want to give away. How do you want us to give this away? Are we giving it to CZI as a depository? Are we, Nicholas?
We could do that, yeah.
You can give it to CZI so that in your committees it can always be a go-to book.
I see you've broken the...
Have I broken something?
No, it's okay. that page isn't very important.
There we go. You might want to do the handover right there. Sekai.
There you go. Yeah, and thank you very much again for inviting us.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go.